Hello everybody and welcome to the 1881 Lounge here at Hollywood Bets Kenilworth, and we are talking the WSB Cape Met for 2024. From myself, Neil Andrews, a warm welcome. There is no rush for you to go anywhere because we are going to spend the first part of this show and a full 60 minutes talking about the WSB Cape Met. Let me welcome our special panel. We are all dolled up in our WSB orange, so we're not going to get lost in a snowstorm anytime soon. Pete Berta, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You've got one task today, which is to give us a full report on Monteen and his preparations for the big race. But first of all, just from your own point of view, lovely to have a runner in the big race, I'm sure.
Yeah, very, very excited. Not always easy to get into a race like this, and I'm super excited to have him in there. And it's we had a Met runner once before, but realistically we knew we had very little chance. This time round we believe we got a fighting chance.
Let's welcome Candice Bass-Robinson. Hilton and I promised not to make her cry, so we're only going to mention Charles Dickens once, but what we are going to do is give you a round of applause for looking after him during a sparkling career.
Thank you.
And you were telling me you're not quite as emotional as you were last week, but it's been a tough 7 days?
Yeah, Neil, it's not been an easy week. Yeah, what can you say? I mean, it's been a marvelous journey. It's been a wonderful journey, and he's obviously retired on a high. So yeah, it's been very emotional for me this week. But we move on, and I look forward to seeing all his progeny, and I'm sure he's going to have a very successful career at stud. So
let's welcome Hilton Hassan, Director of WSB, to the card call. Hilton, great to have you on. It's going to be a slightly better behaved panel than last year, I think.
Yeah, good to have you back, Neil, and a very different looking team from last year. Like you said, a lot calmer, I think.
And then I just want to remind folks as well, and I saw this actually online a little bit early on, WSB deposit match is running, which is fantastic, and it's as high as 20%. So if you deposit money into your WSB account, let's say, for example, you put in 1,000 Rand, I've got to make sure I got my math right here, but 1,000 Rand, you will get 200 Rand bonus bets?
Yes, correct.
So 20% of everything. It's 10,000, you get 2,000.
Correct, and it's up to 100,000 Rand, you get 20,000 Rand.
Wow, okay, well some of us haven't got 100,000, but if you do have 100,000 and deposit it, you'll get 20,000 in bonus bets. So it's a really wonderful offer, and that's going to run for the full week, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Wonderful. Okay, right, Hilton, let's go. So how it works, folks, is we reverse the betting boards. We start with the biggest outsider and then we move up to see it again. So I guess that means we're going to start with the horse carded as number 1, Waterbury Lane, who might be bottom of the boards, but he's obviously drawn 1.
Yeah, yes. I don't know what kind of chance he's got, to be honest. I think we're going to go through the bottom ones here, having to decide whether they've got place chances.
Well, the overall, Hilton, let me get your take on this, and you can get Candice and Pete's take on it. With Charles Dickens not being in the race, from a sponsorship point of view, I guess in an ideal world you would have liked the horse to run. Certainly Candice would have liked the horse to run, but he isn't. But if you take See It Again out, it has a very open field to it. So in terms of each way betting, you wouldn't be totally surprised if Waterbury Lane didn't manage to run into a placings or get into the mix, because would you agree with me that if you took See It Again out of the race, it does have a relatively open field to it?
Yeah, it does. It does, Neil. I think if you took See It Again out, I don't know what kind of field you would have, to be honest. But if you're talking about we're probably going to end up talking about what's going to run second to See It Again.
Yes.
We are running a promo, which I mentioned to you earlier, that if you back a horse and run second, we'll give you your money back up to 2,000 Rand.
Oh, okay.
So it's worth it. If you think, well, See It Again's going to win, but I'm going to back this horse to run second anyway, and he does run second, you're going to get your money back.
I didn't know that, and that's actually very important because, yeah, that's actually not bad. So you've almost got a free, if you believe your horse is going to run first or second, you've got a bet to nothing, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, up to 2,000 Rand?
Yep.
Good, that's good to know. Okay, let's start off with Waterbury Lane. Anybody give Waterbury Lane? He's not the worst horse in the world, Pete. I mean, he's won 6 races out of 21 starts. I've seen a hell of a lot worse horses going off at the boost that we're going to hear from Hilton in a moment.
Yeah, look, I think Hilton's actually correct in saying, take See It Again out. It's quite an open race, and I was going through the card, and I just noticed, with Waterbury Lane being drawn 1.
Yeah.
There is a bit of he's going to be a bit of pace in this race, I think, because I'm pretty sure that these horses put in the race to make the pace, foresee it again. And he's a difficult horse, Waterbury Lane, so you know, he hasn't had things his way. And from a one draw, if he could come out and on very soft hands and maybe just get to relax, we might see a different picture with him. Because he's a very strong horse. I've seen him in the morning. He's quite a difficult horse. So this could just be a race which works well for him.
Candice, he's trained by Ricky Maingard, one of the great old masters, right up there with your dad. Very shrewd conditioner. We saw last year that Matana came out and surprised us all in the first running of the King's Plate. So the man knows what he's doing with his horses.
No, he does, Neil. And again, this year, Matana came out and ran a great race
He
again
did.
after, you know, I think they said he wasn't right, and you know, Ricky managed to get him right on the day to run it in another great race. So yeah, Ricky always does a fantastic job. But I'm kind of with Hilton here. I actually don't really know what to say about this horse or to think about him. For me, there's nothing to look at here that's too inspiring at this stage. You know, I know he's won 6 races and he was a decent horse, but I think he's gone on a little bit past that right now. And I think he's going to have to show a little bit more improvement even to run into the money here, my opinion.
But this horse, Anfield's Rocket, Candice, certainly hasn't achieved the heights that he did as a 3-year-old.
No, he hasn't, Neil. He definitely hasn't gone on. And much the same story with him here. I think he's going to have to pick up his feet a little bit to finish in the money. You know, earlier on, quite a way back, he finished about 4.5 lengths behind Charles Dickens, and again just almost 6 lengths again last time out. So as far as See It Again goes, he's got a good couple of lengths, you know, to find on him, and I think, you know, a couple less to find on the rest of the field.
He's got a couple of things perhaps in his favour. He's got a very good jockey, Louis Mkotwe. He's got a good draw of 4. He's got Brett Crawford training him. Taking nothing away from Grant Maroon, by the way, who's also, his yard in Joburg's looking quite nice. I think Mark Khan's doing a lot of work there. Horse is looking good. So it's got to be a bit of a reach for Anfield's Rocket, but that's why he's going to be a daft price, right?
Yeah. You know, he's only had the one run back here, and he finished very well. He jumped slow and he ran on very well that day. I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, he had like the 3rd fastest 400 to finish, which was, you know, encouraging. And it's his first run here, only five lengths off. So I think you probably can make a little bit of a case for him. But he's one of the horses that I just look past in this race. And
sure. Right. Let's move on to Rascallion. And, well, he has an old war horse. I can't help but think, Hilton, I'll get your comments on Rascallion here. I mean, he's now rising, he's 7, you know, he's a 6-year-old, but he's a Vercingetorix. He's been a pretty consistent horse. He's earned over R1 million. For me, I've always had him as a nearly kind of horse. He's just always on the periphery. He was I've kind of fancied him a bit in the July, and drew poorly, didn't run great. If he can put it together, then maybe he can work his way into the quartets or something. But yeah, he's actually only a 4-time winner, but he's got, again, a positive in so much as Bernard Fade Herb rides. I don't think the draw will worry anybody too much. He's drawn 13. But yeah, what do you think of Rascallion?
Yeah, I don't think the draw is going to worry anybody too much with 13 horses in the race. And he won the premiers last year. Grade 3 came back. I thought, okay, he might have a small chance in the Met. I think he was one of the unluckiest horses. Him and Linebacker both got taken out at a very crucial stage last year. So that's the same as you, Neil. I thought, well, going into the July, well, the 1900 in the July, I thought he was definitely a runner, but he just hasn't captured that form. And he seems to be going sort of the wrong way again.
I think he was, I seem to remember from memory, he was extremely well handicapped. He came in quite well handicapped, but he didn't produce. Maybe the draw didn't help him. But he's back in a place where he has won before. This course, he's won 3 of his 4 races, so there's a familiarity. Anyway, he's been a frustrating horse in some respects, Pete, for his owners, I think.
I'm sure he has. A year ago, you know, he was a lot of talk, and everybody rated him very high, and you know, everybody was expecting him to go on and do big things. So I think you actually hit the nail on the head by saying he's a nearly. But you know, when you look at his form, I mean, he's always running in feature races and that, and he's never really far off. He's always that 2-3 lengths off. So he has been a very honest horse. He unfortunately just hasn't quite achieved what I think most people thought he was going to.
Yeah, I said his owners will be disappointed. Fortunately, one of his owners is Mar Shirtliff, who will only have to quickly think about JPEG and a certain horse called Pocket Power, who I'm sure Candice remembers very well. So I'm sure he sleeps pretty well at night. But yeah, Rascallion probably passed his best as well as 6. But in an open race, I wouldn't rule him out of a quartet, perhaps.
Yeah, probably not, Neil. I think, he's always there and thereabouts, and he is one of those horses that you think, he was unlucky this time. Next time, if things go his way, he should be, he should have a good winning chance. But somehow or other, he always just seems to be off those top horses, and I think that's what he is. I think he's just off those top horses.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the field this year, if you take See It Again out of it, probably is horses that are just off those top horses.
I think you've summed that up perfectly, and
so,
that's why he could
he may well be able to if things go his way in the race. There's no reason why he couldn't, be a quartet horse.
I think Candice is right. You just have to look. I'm going to look at the horses he's run by. Jet Dark, Trip of Fortune, Nexus he beat, Jet Dark, Bakaya, Charles Dickens, Winchester Mansion, Princess Calla, See It Again, and Mucho Dairo. All of those are well above B division horses. He's kept very good company. Okay, let's move on to Sugar Mountain, and we've got to start with Candice on Sugar Mountain. Son of Silvano, he's done really nicely for you, and actually he's probably, I know he's a 5-year-old now, but he seemed to get better as a 4-year-old than he was as a 3-year-old. Is that fair comment?
Yes, very fair comment, Neil. He was a very backward horse. He was lanky, he was light and a light-framed horse, and he only really came into his best last year, and probably this year, I think has been his best year of racing now that he's strengthened up into a proper horse. Distance-wise, we spent a lot of time going 1400. He is out of a Var mare, and he was winning over those trips that I think probably was some of his better wins over there. And it's only the last few times now that we've gone a bit further with him over the 1800, and he certainly hasn't disgraced himself. I think he was a little unlucky in the Peninsula Handicap not to get a run there, and last time the pace didn't suit him. They went incredibly slow. He's a horse that likes to have a little bit of a chance. He's got a good finish, and he ended up having to sit handier and go from the top of the straight, so it wasn't an ideal race for him pace wise. So he's really well at the moment, Neil. Whether or not he will be as effective over the 2,000 metres, going the extra 200 metres now is a small question mark. But as far as the rest of the horses go, he's not far off the rest of the field if he sees out the 2,000 metres, and if the pace is not too slow, and it's a fair enough race. So he's the kind of horse that if he ran into the money, it certainly wouldn't surprise me. Is he good enough to beat See It Again? I'm not so sure about that, but he's fit and well, and he's in good shape.
Not the worst form. 7-time winner. I'm just looking. He never runs a bad race.
Never ever.
No.
Never.
So you're going to get a thrill there. Anything to add on Sugar Mountain?
Not really, but I just think that he's a horse that I actually make a bit of a danger here. I've met him twice with Monteen, and he's beaten me twice, giving me weight. So, I obviously have to have a lot of respect for him. And I saw him work. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he caught my eye.
Sugar Mountain given quite a good write-up from Candice and from Pete. Okay, now let's move on to a horse we've touched on already, Matana, who. Again, what a job Ricky Maingard has done with this horse. Now, I think that the story is well documented, Hilton, that he was with Mike, and he was due to be sold. In fact, I think he had been sold to go to Mauritius, and then that fell through because there were issues with the Mauritius. He didn't go, and then he was bought out of retirement, and of course came up and won the King's Plate. But if you have a look at him, apart from the fact that he did lower Charles Dickens's colours in that King's Plate, not of this year, but the previous year, again, Jet Dark, Bakaya, Trip of Fortune, second again in the Gold Challenge, where Charles Dickens got his revenge. But then Princess Calla, See It Again, and Charles Dickens again. He's kept very good company.
Yeah, he has, Neil, but he just keeps on finishing 5 and 6 lengths behind them. So does that make him a runner? Makes him maybe a place chance. But I think if this was over 1,600 metres, even then, I don't know. I know that 2,000 last year, I think he ran 5 or 6 lengths off them in the Met after winning the King's Plate. I just think the 2,000 might be a bit far, and I just don't think he's got that same form that he took into the King's Plate last year.
Yeah, it's interesting. He was a horse who I watched in the Met last year, and Pierre rode him, and he never really got going. The horse. I'm not too sure whether there was a lot of traffic issues, wasn't there? It was a messy Met last year.
Yeah,
I think probably the unlucky horse was Pomp and Power, but there were a few. There were a long list of unlucky horses. Maybe fell foul of that. Okay, let's move on now. We're starting to get to some interesting horses, and it's not yet Monteen. That's coming. Double Superlative. What do we make of Double Superlative, Pete? Because here's a horse who won the Guineas, then he ran in the Met as a 3-year-old, and he got injured. But if he were to come back to anything like the Guineas and the Met form of last year, he must have some kind of chance.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what to make of him here, because he was very highly regarded before he got injured, and yeah, I'm not too sure exactly what happened to him, but he just hasn't come back quite the same horse since his return. So, and I'm looking at this race, and I'm trying to work out how it's going to work out, and I think you know, Snaith has got a horse in the race here which they're going to make use to make the pace. But I'm just thinking that horse doesn't have that much pace, and I'm wondering whether this horse is going to make sure that the pace is genuine. So I'm not exactly sure why they're using him. You know, is he just here to make sure that the pace is genuine, or if they really believe that he's got a good chance? I'm going to hope that it's the latter because of his earlier form, and maybe they're just nursing him back for this race. I do feel though, if the pace is good in this race, it will suit this horse.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure what to make of him.
His rider won't know him, obviously, Daniel Muscat. We know he's well related. I've got to say that because Peter might be watching. But I tell you one thing about Daniel Muscat. He boots home some winners in the UK. He's on that all weather. He's deadly. Yeah, he's been a lot of talk about him coming down now and how well he's doing and riding at the moment, and he's going to be coming down and wanting to win this race. Yeah, no, I don't think Double Superlative. Pete probably summed it up. He's one of the dark horses in the race. His recent form doesn't probably inspire confidence, but it was over 6 furlongs and a mile, and the step up, bearing in mind he was only at under 2 lengths behind Comet Ding in the race last year, Candice. A dark horse.
He could be, Neil. I looked at him in the ring in the King's Plate, and he looked on the big side to me. I don't know if Justin's maybe having a bit of trouble trying to strip him down now as an older horse, and obviously having an injury and being off for so long, and I speak under correction, but I think he had a tendon injury.
Correct.
And you know, sometimes after that kind of an injury, a lot of horses just hold back. They just don't put in, you know, what they were putting in when they were sound, or they didn't have an injury. So possibly, you know, he can fit into that sort of mold at the moment. But obviously, ability-wise, you never lose your ability. And you know, if they get him to produce his best on the day, he's certainly a horse that could well finish in the money, especially from a good draw. So tricky horse to assess, really. I think, you know, Justin would probably be able to tell us more, really.
I think he's had quite a muddled prep as well. I mean, he ran in the Merchants over 1200, and he was left to run on hands and heels type of thing. And then the King's Plate, they took him to the front, basically. You know, they've completely reversed what they were teaching him, trying to teach him to do and to settle. So I don't know if they change their tactics and they decide to drop him out and let him run on. But I think if they do use him to go to the front, I think that's going to probably be his race done, to be honest. And I'm quite disappointed because I thought he was really, really good as a 3-year-old. Yeah, he really was.
Okay, well, he wasn't well drawn in the King's Plate. He was drawn 10 out of 12. Doesn't seem to be able to crack too much of a draw. I see in the Cape Mile he was drawn 8 out of 13 behind Pete's horse. I'm going to ask Candice what she thinks of your horse. She's got to be polite.
Do I?
Yeah. What do you think? He ran a cracker in the King's Plate.
He ran a cracker in the King's Plate. He really did. You know, he's a very impressive looking horse. He's an imposing horse. He comes past my ring in the mornings. I never fail to miss him. He's a big strapping horse, big long stride, and yeah, a very good run from him last time. Slightly wider draw to overcome this time, so I don't know, that's obviously going to be, you know, what are you going to do with him? Is he going to have to go and sit up handy this time, or, you know, he's a horse with a huge stride, does he use his stride? But I'm sure Pitt will be able to tell you more of that. But he's certainly a runner here, I would think, certainly for a money chance on that last run, and I would imagine this would be, you know, looking at this field, he's not far off most of these horses here, pretty much in the mix. Distance-wise, is it the first time he's going over this trip?
It is.
It is, yeah.
So that obviously
so
you will be able to tell us that
too. Tell us, will he stay in your mind?
I do believe he will. Actually, I've got very little doubt that he won't stay the trip. So we've been aiming him at this race for quite a while, and we're hoping to get there, and we're there now, so very happy. And I think a lot is happening at the moment, and everything seems to just be falling in the right place. Nobody knows yet, but Dare to Dream Racing has been sponsored now by World Sports Betting as well. So thank you very much for that, Hilton, and it's come at the right time.
Give him a round of applause for that then. That's good news. That wasn't because I was singing his strike rate up early on. That decision was made before I came on air.
No, it was done after that. I said to him, "Don't sponsorship."
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well done. Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so Saturday will be our first meeting, and World Sports Betting is sponsoring the Met, and he's running. So hopefully we can get off to a cracking start. I do believe that he's very, very well at the moment. I do believe he's going to enjoy the 2,000 meters. I couldn't be happier with him at the moment, and See It Again is a very tough horse to beat. I did say a little while ago when we were always targeting this race, sorry to Candice, but watching Charles Dickens work in the morning, he was just not quite where he needed to be, and we sort of changed our plan and thought we'll rather target the King's Plate. I think it was easier to win the King's Plate if Charles Dickens is not right, then beat See It Again over the 2,000 meters. But the way they turned that horse around was just amazing. I couldn't believe how they turned that horse around, and well done to Candice and her team. It was super to see, which is also nice to see. We like to see champions, but See It Again is going to be hard to beat over the 2,000 meters long straight at Kenilworth. We do know that, but I do believe that we're going to give him a run for his money, and unfortunately I don't have a World Sports Betting account yet. Hilton's going to sort it out for me.
I'm sure they'll be rectified by the end of the show.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be doing
I'd love to be taking a bet on him now. I'm quite keen to see that. But anybody that's watching, anybody that wants to do something for me, they can go and have a bet on Monteen.
There you go. Great to see Rachel Vernicker getting a chance. Really pleased for her. And of course we do know how much work she's put in behind the scenes with See It Again. So here's a horse who, again, on some of his 3-year-old form, if you go to the Cape Derby, for example, I mean, he ran, I think, when See It Again beat Charles Dickens, I think he ran third. So he's not without a complete prayer. He's got some ability, but is he quite good enough, Candice?
I'm not sure, Neil. My thought was this horse could possibly be the pacemaker. With Rachel aboard, I mean, she obviously rides See It Again every day.
Yes.
She knows him pretty well. For me, I thought perhaps that would be, I don't know, but that was just my thoughts. But also a horse that would probably need to improve a bit more to feature in a race like this, or to be able to win a race like this. Every now and then he runs a cracker, and there have been once or twice that he's been my dark horse in a race where I thought he's been my fancy. So he has got the ability, and as I said, it all depends what they do with him in this race, and he certainly could have a quartet chance if he finds his best form. But
I fancied him a bit last time in the premiers, and JP van der Merwe rode him. He did come in for some support, but again he ran a bit flat. What's your take on him?
Oh, when he won the Winter Guineas, the WSB Winter Guineas last year, I was sitting with Justin for Mark, the prize giving, and we both said, this is our daily news horse. And he went down to Durban, and he ran 2 lengths off See It Again. And there was a lot of money for him in the July. I think he started second favourite in the July, something 7-8 to 1. And I think you remember, you'll probably know, again, I think it was Justin's worst day ever that he'd ever had. I think Do It Again was the only horse of his that ran a place.
Yes.
And from then he just has not reproduced anything. So, like you said, he's got the ability, but there's definitely something that's not right with him at the moment.
Okay, so not for you, which means we should get a good price boost. We had him without question at 25 to 1. What are you going to do from same as the others? Are you going to push us out to, oh, this is a new price, so what are we going to get?
No, we'll push him out to 40.
40 to 1?
Yeah.
40 to 1 without question, which is again not too shabby. 40 to 1, and there it is on screen, number 9 without question. Right, we've still got 17 minutes, so we're going to march on with our next horse, which is Royal Aussie. Right, interesting horse. What do you, Pete, take us through, what do you think of Royal Aussie?
Well, I think, he's never gone the distance. He's never gone further than a mile. He won the Gold Rush last year, and he won it very, very well. And you know, he just wasn't quite the horse that we thought he was going to be after that. But his last run for me was just super impressive. And Royal Mo, maybe he's going to enjoy the 2,000 meters. You know, so he's always running up handy, and they dropped him right out, and he ran a cracker. He really did. I mean, his last run was fantastic, and on that, I've just got to feel like he is going to enjoy the little bit extra. And if the pace is going to be a decent pace, I think he's going to be a bit of a runner.
Well, he was drawn poorly the last couple of starts. So he's got a draw of 8, which is an improvement on what he's got. But he's again a horse, Candice, that has 4 times run behind Charles Dickens. So
I was very impressed with his run last time. Our change of tactics, dropping him in, he ran on very well. Obviously hasn't been the trip yet. I don't see, looking at him and looking at the way he runs and just watching him, he looks to me like he should get the trip. So for me, I think he's a runner here, and I quite like him. Just specifically on that last run. He's an honest horse, and you know, I don't quite know how they will ride him from an 8 draw. You know, normally he's up handy racing, and last time, you know, they had no choice but to drop him in, which is probably the best thing to do. So he's definitely got a money chance for me. Okay,
Cabela Mazziani rides, and Cabela's the July winner and riding at the top of his game. Very good rider, intelligent rider. So he'll get every assistance, I'm sure, from the saddle. He did ride him last time to 3rd in the Lormeron King's Plate. Okay, before you give us the price boost, what's your opinion, Hilton, on Royal Aussie? Is he a dark horse?
I think he is, Neil. You know, it's interesting to see whether the King's Plate was a fluke or by design, because he actually had a shocking start. The Starps report said lost the length, but it was closer to 2 or 3 lengths, to be honest. So if their plan was to set the pace, that was out the window straight from the start, and maybe they settled him because he had, like Candice said, no other option, and suddenly they realised, well, he actually ran on. So maybe they thought to themselves, not that we've been doing it wrong the whole time, but maybe he's going to be better off settling at the back. 1,600 running on a Kenilworth, very different to 2,000 though, isn't it?
Let's move on to this horse, Mucho Dairo. Now, here I'm going to start with Hilton, because when I was talking to Pete about Monteen, here's Mucho Dairo, who I think that Justin's been fairly open. I think he's mentioned that they think he's a July runner. But he now finds himself in a race. He is extremely, in my opinion, conservatively rated at 110, which would suit him nicely for the July. But he's in a race now where if he does happen to run second to See It Again, or close to See It Again, who is rated 132, so let's just do some math here. See It Again is rated 132, Mucho Dairo is 110. That is a difference of 22 points.
Yeah.
So he should, the handicapper is saying is that See It Again should beat him by 11 lengths.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if See It Again, as good as he is, beats him by 11 lengths.
Yeah, absolutely.
So either See It Again, just purely on paper, and of course the races aren't run with math and on paper, either See It Again is too high or Mucho Dairo is too low. But you surprised to see him in the race if they like him for the July?
Yeah, I am. After that Premier's trial, they supplemented him on the Tuesday, and then Wednesday they noted him as a doubtful starter. Yeah. And then I thought to myself, well, that's got to be, maybe he's just there to make up the numbers, and started thinking what they did with Bulgarian. They sort of flew him under the radar. And like you said, if he's sort of waited now to carry 53 in the July, and he runs within 3 or 4 lengths of See It Again, that's going to be 57, 56 and a half, 57. So there's 2 schools of thought here. Pete's one is take your chances while you have them, and the others are, well, if you think a horse is not going to win this race, put him in cotton wool and then sort of move him towards the next grade one, which is just as good, just as prestigious. So where do you stand? Is he going to run? Is he? I mean, the owner obviously is Nick Johnson. He's got 3 other horses in the race. See It Again is one of them. Are they putting it in just in case something happens to See It Again before the weekend?
Welcome back. So we are still on the World Sports Betting Cape Met, because we've got to talk and honour the favourite and just check with Pete and Candice. And we start off with you, Pete. He really looks like an extremely hard horse to beat. Yes, he got flattened and given a bit of a smashing by Charles Dickens. But we know Charles Dickens at a mile, superstar, unbeatable at his best. He proved that. No disgrace, therefore, for See It Again to run second to him.
Not at all. I think in my time, unfortunately, I missed Variety Club, but in my time, Charles Dickens is the best miler I've seen. So, no disgrace. I don't think anybody. Well, I never really gave See It Again a chance over the mile to beat Charles Dickens. So, it's a good run from him still, and I think everybody knows that 2,000 meters is his optimum distance, and the Kenilworth long straight is just going to suit him down to the ground. Pierre Stratum on board. I think he's got so much in his favour here. Luckily enough as well, the same owner having another horse in the race, so you know he can quite happily say, look, we want a pace, and please make sure that the pace is genuine for him. And so he's going to have that as well. I think he's got everything in his favour. He's a smashing horse. And he's going to take a bit of beating.
Candice, I think you'll probably echo those. And if I go back to the July, it really was a terrific run in the July as a 3-year-old.
Cracking run in the July at the weights, Neil. I really thought that was a really cracking run. And he came out and he won his prep run, you know, very well. And, you know, obviously in the Greenpoint Stakes came out and won that too. You know, last time certainly wasn't a bad run from him at all. I thought, you know, Pierre had to ride him a little bit handier than what he usually had him, which is not always the way that I don't think he likes to run best. So, you know, looking at the way the race is going to pan out, I can't see anything here beating him.
No, he looks like that. And again, I've mentioned a couple of times, it wouldn't surprise me if we roll back the years to a Mark Anthony or a Horse Chestnut. If he did trot up, none of us would be actually surprised. He's clearly the best horse. Yeah. He's got one of the South Africa's greatest riders on him. And it's interesting, Candice, coming back to his 3-year-old, he's definitely taken a step up. He's filled up. He's a better horse than he was as a 3-year-old, and an exciting prospect.
He is, and I see him every morning as well. He comes past me, so he is a much stronger horse than what he was. And yeah, I can't see anything. I mean, obviously we're all looking for something to beat him, but realistically speaking, if things go according to plan, he should win comfortably.
He should. Thanks very much to Hilton and the team. Thank you for watching. It's been our World Sports Betting Card Call. All the best. Remember that whatever we think, it's all about what you think and where you put your money on World Sports Betting Cape Racing Day. It's the Cape Met for 2024. See It Again is clearly the horse to beat. Thank you for watching.
With a 20% deposit match of up to 100,000 Rand and our predictor where you could win 1 million Rand cash, there's never been a better time to register.